For Roy Orbison in 1963. Let's see. Elton John opened for Derek and the Dominoes in 1970. AC/DC opened for Rainbow in 1978. And this is the one that really got me. Taylor Swift opened for Rascal Flatts in 2008. So there's hope. All right. So, can you make this a little bigger so I can see it? I'm blind, I have to go down here and see this, but I'm gonna keep it pretty brief here. How do you open for a guy who everybody knows in this room, right? The biggest face in EUC. And I'm gonna keep it short, other than to say everyone in this room has been touched by Mark in some way, right? I think every single person in here probably has a Mark story. He's a visionary. He's someone that's an inspirational leader, someone with a giant heart who leads with empathy and has a whole lot of integrity. He's the first person we actually called when we wanted to put this event together, and we actually met him in a coffee shop because we figured it's easier to do business over food and pancakes. Yeah, he was the first person we literally asked on December 5th as we were recruiting the 92 speakers that came to join us here. And his answer was one word, and it became the theme of this event. And it came really quickly. So with that, I want to put your hands together for the GOAT of EUC, Mark Templeton.
Done anything good yet, though? Come on. So first of all, Jed is right. I did agree in a coffee shop to be part of Disrupt. I said there was one condition, that Submit had to be my warm-up. So I think he did pretty darn well on one. Two, I'm not an engineer, so he did one-up me on that. I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express. I'm working on the engineering thing. But, all of you, I just wake up every day with great thanks, whether you're a customer or a partner, or, one of the family, those of us that grew up in the ecosystem at Citrix, at VMware, and beyond. And, I'm just so grateful for that entire life experience. And so it would be crazy if I didn't start out with Moody Blues and just saying how lovely it is to see you again, how lovely it is to be amongst you again. And I've missed you, and the Moody Blues are responsible for a lot of my taste in fashion and music, okay? I did get to see them live at Heineken Music Hall in Amsterdam in 2010. It was just amazing, but even better, I got to meet them myself. So here we are, Yvonne and myself, with Justin Hayward, John Lodge, Graham Edge. We lost Graham Edge last year, which was very sad, but this was the best photograph we could get because I was just beside myself, all right? So these guys are standing around saying, what's this guy on? All right? So this is the best photo we got, but it was an amazing experience. They're my heroes in so many ways, and they've been a big part of my journey. A big part of my journey, I think you all know, was over 20 years at Citrix, and October 21st of 2015 is the day I retired from Citrix. I did my 70th conference call with Wall Street, with David Henshaw, who is my trusted advisor, great friend still, and and CFO at the time. And literally, we finished the call. We went over to my office. We did this selfie, all right? And I looked down at my phone, And my daughter had done a post, and she said, "Oh my God, my dad retired on Back to the Future Day." Now, I had no idea what Back to the Future Day was, right? So someone explained it to me, and I said, "Yeah, that's the date that Doc dialed into the DeLorean." So, wow, that's interesting, etc. So I walked down to the parking garage, and here's a photo of me leaving. So Jed, at that meeting, said, what do you want to talk about, et cetera? And I said, well, look, my job is to fly above everything, and I just think it's time to start talking about modernizing VDI. He said, great, I love that theme, go do it. So we did a little promotion video. I start to get all of the social media back. Oh, Mark, you better Moody Blues. I hope you have a vest. But they didn't really want to know much about VDI modernization. It's like, what have you been up to? What's the stuff around Workspot that you're involved with? And where's the future? Because that's always, kind of on my mind. And a little spoiler alert here is the future is about modernizing VDI. So what have I been up to? Well, first thing I've been up to is what I've been up to a lot of years, and that is loving my beautiful bride, Yvonne. Okay. The crazy thing is that we met right here at the Opryland Hotel in February of 1978. Wow. And she's an amazing CEO, all right? She was an amazing first lady at Citrix, and my best friend and an amazing partner. My beautiful family, so here's my son Warren. So since I saw you all last, he got married, this beautiful girl Kate, and I have a grandson who's now 18 months old, William, okay? And then our daughter Pinckney is here with her husband Pari, and my granddaughter Minoa. So, where there have been a lot of supply chain problems over the last years, no supply chain problems whatsoever. And then, of course, there's Heidi and Speedy, who are here with us for their first keynote. And so this is my team, and I've been, enjoying this team a lot since I saw you last. And I think probably the last time was at Synergy in 2015. I'm still a crazy electric vehicle person, all right? Except that I've expanded beyond Tesla, and I've got this amazing Lucid Dream Air. So I always like to be the first kid on my block, as many of you know, but I'm the third kid on my block. So this is serial number 3. It's 1,111 horsepower. It is very fast, and it's really an amazing machine. I just have to tell you that. I continue to serve on boards, which I love to do because when you're on the other side of the table, you get to practice mentoring, right? And asking questions and framing questions to help nudge and help management teams achieve their goals. I spent 10 years on the board of Equifax, yes, through the breach, and learned some pretty profound lessons through that. Keysight is the original Hewlett-Packard, okay? It's Bill and Dave's electronic test and measurement company. It got spun into Agilent and got spun out. I joined the board and when it was spun out. And then a private company called Adaptive Insights, where I served under my former chairman, who was CEO, Tom Bogan. And 3 days before we were ready to ring the bell at the New York Exchange, we became a Workday company, right? So an amazing set of experiences there sitting on the other side of the table. But I did get the itch, and I was CEO of DigitalOcean for about 14 months to straighten a bunch of things out, including hiring my successor. DigitalOcean went public about 15 months later with a great and better and more appropriate CEO and team and strategy, and they're all about simplifying cloud computing for the small team, small developer, and small business. A very, very successful company. Today, I'm serving on different boards. I'm not going to go into all of these, but there's one I'm especially proud of, and that's the service that I do on the Arista Networks board. Arista Networks has reinvented networking from the bare metal up, running software that does switching, routing, firewalling, has all kinds of AI built into it for security, etc. And it runs on merchant silicon, which is basically Broadcom, Tomahawk, those kinds of chips. And so we get better and better as the underlying platform gets. And so if you love Azure, all right, it's Arista Networking that runs Azure, right, and plenty other hyperscalers and enterprise data centers. We'll come back to that a little bit later. So then Workspot. It's the PC company for the cloud, all right? And I joined the company as an advisor, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And in 2020, Amitabh, who you met on stage, asked me if I'd join the board, etc. I've been having a great time doing that. And honestly, Workspot is what I envisioned the future would become, right? It's really that simple, all right? I mean, a side benefit is working with people that you love and that really supported you, and there are all the human aspects of it, but intellectually, I felt like the cloud and cloud native, etc., was going to be extremely important in the future. So back in the day when we would brief customers around our strategy, our roadmap, and promises that we would make, this is a slide, what does it say? 2006. So this is, and this slide evolved a little bit over the years, but this was the clear vision we had for customers. Device network independence, check, all right? Any to any and secure when trusted. We're probably as an industry still not quite there, right? Self-service user experiences, okay? Still working on that. Elastic service capacity, long way, we were a long way from that. And consumption-based costs. But these were big, hairy, audacious goals to show customers that we were their partner to think over the horizon, right? To allow them to have comfort working with the day-to-day issues and have comfort in a partner who is thinking over the horizon. And that's what I really love about what we've done at Workspot around time to value, around reliability, around performance, operating costs, and having a completely open platform that's multi-cloud, multi-OS, and cloud native. And so these are all the reasons behind my passion for and decision to really participate with Workspot pretty intently. So some of you maybe remember back in 2001, it was in November, we had this idea and we called it the virtual workplace. And to express that idea, we made a video called Virtual Workplace. It's still out there on YouTube if you want to see it. But it was all about the ideas, those promises that were in that prior slide about smoothly roaming across devices, about not hybrid work, about working on demand, right? And the kinds of security that would be needed to roam from device to device to device, to collaborate with people across time zones and boundaries, corporate boundaries, how to actually get business outcomes, from the technology. So as you see here, there's no expression of products or particular technologies. These are the manifestations of those things that deliver human value. And until you deliver human value and appreciate human value, you just are not, you're not there. You're not there. So this is 2001, and really formed the set of ideas that we had over many years to try to bring technologies and parts and partnerships, et cetera, together to deliver those kinds of business outcomes. And it started with desktop virtualization in the very beginning. And then customers said, wait a minute, I've got a Windows desktop and now you're giving me another one inside of it? And so we said, yeah, right. We just want the apps. All right, so we'll hide the desktop and give you the apps. You have a choice. So that was app and browser virtualization. And then, thanks to VMware, they started to really push on the whole idea of VDI, really a persistent desktop. But today, when we say VDI, we really mean kind of all of this stuff in one term and one idea. And so we're going to talk about now modernizing VDI. And I think the way we modernize VDI, okay, is by starting in a different place. And I think Sumit tried to talk about incrementalism and the danger of incrementalism, because incrementalism is another way to express the most powerful force in the universe, and that's inertia. Because what inertia is all about is doing today what we did yesterday. I mean, it worked, we're still alive, everything's okay, but the problem is when that energy just keeps propagating you forward, you do incremental things. And I'd say that, and this book, by the way, is really profound. It's about the tyranny of inertia, because what happens is those ideas that once were great, they die, right? And I say that, VDI has died, all right, after quite a great lifetime. And it's time to now think differently about how we deliver that enterprise desktop experience. So, Mark Benioff started this big hoo-ha around no software. You remember this button, and Salesforce was built out of it. Mark Andreessen wrote this article about software eating the world. I think if he were going to rewrite the article today, he would say software as a service is eating the world. Now, to sort of kind of prove that, look, do you remember the days when there was sort of these big categories of software? They started on-premise and they moved to multi-tenant SaaS. So there is no more Siebel. It's Salesforce. There's no PeopleSoft. There's Workday. And BMC Service Management has been replaced by ServiceNow. And all of these products are multi-tenant SaaS products. And so the question is, how do we move VDI from an on-premise kind of infrastructure assumption set to a multi-tenant SaaS assumption set where we can talk about PC, physical PC on your desk, it's just in the cloud, okay? So that's the sort of the idea of really breaking the inertia. And to really get an appreciation for that, I like to always zoom out and think about the macro environment. Back in 1987, I think, there were a number of researchers and a group that were brought together to write down the assumptions that planners around government agencies mainly, what they should assume about the future. And they came up with this term. You probably have heard it before. It's VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. That was in the late 80s. So if we think about time and history since those late 80s, these four words have played out amazingly and scarily correctly, and I think they're still the platform for what we're dealing with today. And I like to think about them in context of things I can put my brain around, and I call them the G5 forces. So the first one is geophysical. I mean, you just have to watch, watch television, and you see all the geophysical things, whether they're, the West Coast, weather and incredible snowfall, rain, etc. The very, very sad tornado all that have hit the Midwest, especially right here in Tennessee. I mean, it's all happening, and it disrupts business and destroys businesses. There are geopolitical forces. You know, when in the old days we talked about, you know, what was going on in the Middle East and the Arab Spring, but now those geopolitical forces have come, you know, here to our own country and every country around the world. Generational forces. You know, the workforce is aging. You know, I'm an OG, right? But my kids are becoming more the center of the workforce today. And they grew up digital, and I grew up with analog. And some of us in here, you know, can probably identify with that. But these generational changes, I think, are being underestimated, generally speaking, in how they're affecting business systems as well as policies, HR policies, employee retention, kind of all the things that we're familiar with. Globalization, it's kind of taken a back seat for a while, but it's still with us in a huge way. It's just a little bit more hidden, and that is going to get more and more and more profound and profoundly important. And then for every business on the planet, it's about growth. Yes, profitability, but growth is where the future always is, and these forces drive an amazing amount of change. And that's what's driving all the things that enterprise customers see every day. You know, the pandemic accelerated digital transformation like in an unimaginable way, in my opinion. Started to drive work styles to evolve. And, you know, I've read a lot of this future of work stuff, and everyone's trying to find an answer, and there isn't an answer, okay? The answer is to enable on-demand work and then apply that to the business that you're in. You know, Sumit said 20 million people, but 80 million were still, you know, out there doing construction work, doing transportation work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you just need the tools to provide work on demand and then apply it to your organization. And that's why I like to, you know, I just like to talk more about the work style evolving and on-demand work than hybrid and all, because they have very discrete meanings. M&A, when you're doing integrations, huge disruption inside of companies. Flexibility is the key thing to be able to absorb. Being ready for disruptions, whether they're geophysical or otherwise. And sustainability initiatives, which are driving a huge number of initiatives from the boardroom all the way through organizations. So a huge set of forces at work and impacts to the day-to-day lives of customers. And it's helping customers with these kinds of challenges is what software is all about. I mean, that's the magic of it. So now, I want to talk a little bit about DaaS. So this is an interesting topic because it sounds like it's a new idea, all right? So I think of it very generically. It's when a desktop is a service. DaaS means desktop as a service, right? So when a desktop is a service, it actually started in 1993, before I joined Citrix, all right? The original, it's actually the third product, all right? A product called WinView. How many of you remember WinView? Okay. So WinView allowed you to set up a desktop as a service out of your data center. And, you know, and it's been sort of that way since those early days. So it's not a new idea, right? But it is an idea that historically has meant doing it yourself. But I think that what I've learned, what I think after all these years, right, is that the desktop, the PC desktop, is actually the ultimate workspace for enterprise work, right? For the place, the container for enterprise apps and data and workflows. And having anywhere access to it, secure, device independent, and as a managed service, because that's what DaaS is, a managed service. So if we try to deconstruct this a little bit, there are a couple of dimensions. It's sort of how it's built and how it's delivered. How is it built? Well, there's sort of the on-premise sort of architecture, where the underlying assumption is I have one tenant, one system for one company, right? And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's the multi-tenant architecture, where it's one system for any number of companies to use, right? How delivered? On one end, it's sort of like you have to do all the work to architect, to build, and to operate. And at the other end, it's a service. It's a software service, right? So it's the difference between do it yourself and consume it yourself, right? So if you look at these, look at DaaS through this lens, right? You have an interesting sort of picture to create, to understand the evolution and maybe where we're going, right? So classically, the world of VDI has been very much a DIY kind of an activity. You know, you design, architect, build it. The assumption is one sort of company user, and it's an on-premise kind of design. In recent years, we've seen cloud additions, you know, sort of extensions, and I call that cloud VDI. It's fantastic, and it's valuable, and it starts to move you towards software as a service, but it still has a lot of sort of similar sort of architect and build and operate sort of characteristics. And then there's the cloud PC, which is by definition is a SaaS kind of offering where it's built on a multi-tenant architecture to be software as a service. So to contrast these, when you look back, you know, the VDI days, those earlier days, it was all about protocol and layering and frankly a lot of complexity to really solve customer problems. Then cloud VDI really started to get at simplification of deployment. The cloud PC has all of the simplicity of deployment and consumption, but it has an openness and observability that I think we have yet to actually appreciate. I think Sumit's one platform idea actually applies to most SaaS systems, right? Because when you buy Salesforce, you're not running it, they're running it. And they're using all kinds of tools to understand how it's doing, where it's going wrong, etc. You have some tools to observe it yourself as well. So this is the idea and the potential. So it's the difference between hiring an architect, going to Home Depot, getting all the stuff and building it yourself versus Airbnb, where you use it on demand when you want to use it. So that's DaaS, but like, where does DaaS go now, and how should we look at that from a time perspective, and especially a market perspective? Because I think, you know, Scott Manchester and I were talking a little earlier today, and you know, if you take all of the collective EDI that's out there and running today, and you compare it to the enterprise desktop real estate, it might be 5%. All right? So how do we take 5% to 10 to 15, 20, et cetera, and to take this actually to a whole new place? So in those early days, in those early 1990s, the TAM was defined by remote access. I mean, that's what most of the use cases were about. And over time, this TAM, I think, can grow to where what we do with DaaS goes mainstream and becomes your enterprise desktop and PC in the cloud, and starts to be a software solution for a PC refresh cycle. That's the potential I think we're looking at here. So, you know, these first two phases have taken us along, really built in the data center. Next, thinking hybrid and getting the cloud involved here for a hybrid type system. My point of view is hybrid is not a destination. Hybrid is a tool to get to another place. That's just my point of view, and it's probably not that popular at this point, but I think when we look back 5 years from now, that's what we're going to find, right? And then the next is leveraging the hyperscale cloud infrastructure, and that's what a cloud PC does. It leverages the hyperscale cloud for this kind of infinite scalability, global availability, et cetera, and some of the things that you heard Amitabh, our CEO at Workspot, talk about earlier today. So what's next? You know, I don't know. Well, I might actually have a couple of ideas, you know, but let's first talk about this cloud PC. You know, this is the PC that has the kind of performance that you're used to when you get a water-cooled workstation or a brand new laptop. You can access it with native or cloud clients or browsers. You know, it's open, multi-OS, multi-cloud, and it also supports on-premise. Auto-scale, self-heals, and has microservices because it's built cloud native. Supports multi-tenant, elastic capacity, and seamless failover so that you can scale it globally and effortlessly. And as a user, you know, it's all invisible. And you get this visibility on a global basis because it's coming from one platform. And these are the ideas that are underlying Workspot as a cloud PC company. But I think they're underlying kind of all of the efforts and that, whether it's Microsoft or Amazon and others in the industry that are really trying to really move the ball forward into the cloud era. So a big question, and many of you are partners, and I always think of partners in the technology formula. And so what about integration partners? Well, modernizing VDI has a rich set of opportunities for services and really engaging with customers. You know, there's the consulting at the front end, there's all the onboarding and support and management operations, and then that's a seed for additional digital transformation. So it's sort of like, do the enablement services that gets you into a very sticky kind of business outcome relationship around digital transformation with the enterprise customer. So there's plenty to do to make these kinds of systems work. So you bring all that together, that's the first part of the solution. The next part is the hyperscale clouds, right? And how you leverage those hyperscale clouds. They're not all created equal. That's a good thing. It's called competition and gives us alternatives and so forth. And so I like to think of them as more like one thing, all right? And I call it Amaguja, okay? Now, all right. And it's not because they're all the same. It's because we want to leverage all of them in a multi-cloud context. And so it's a fun way to think about multi-cloud and how do I think out of the box and how do I think beyond, you know, one single cloud. And then there's the cloud PC that you can offer with these with partners leveraging the hyperscalers. So partners get to build the kind of trust that you rely on and recurring revenue. You build your strategic partnership with the hyperscale cloud providers, and customers get a delighted workforce with a great experience, with choices around work styles, solving a wide array of business use cases, and really driving the kind of business outcomes that customers really need to justify spending money on technology. So that's the idea, and that's what I think is in the future for partners when it comes to the cloud PC era. And so, you know, the cloud PC is a way to leverage in a cloud-native way the delivering of a virtual workplace and kind of what we thought way back when. Now, you know, a lot of you in here grew up under the Citrix umbrella, whether you're an employee or a partner or a customer. And we had this fundamental ethos that is the driving ethos behind Workspot. And so I'm not sure what happened to the slide right there, but basically it's about anyness wins, work is not a place, and the ethos of a culture that's uplifting to everyone that participates. Back in 2001, we made that video. This is the cover of the annual shareholder report, about 4 months after we made the video. So we were promising to make that virtual workplace real, and that continues to be my personal mission, all right? Why I'm here today, to encourage and inspire all of you to keep working on this. There's still a lot to do, a lot of fun to have, a lot of relationships to build, and why it's always lovely to be here and be among you. Thank you. Hey, wait. I'm not going to make it that easy, all right? Because this can't be, I can't do this without there being what? One more thing. Okay. One more thing. I'm not sure what happened to the text, but we're going to keep rolling anyway. So let's go back to that DAS evolution picture, okay? So what is next? What does happen next? And why, right? So first is the platform, is to think about the platform. And now this is a little bit over the horizon, all right? But it's probably not as far as we might think, all right? So where does computing go, all right? Well, the next stage, but Moore's Law, wonderful. But, remember, Moore didn't say this had to be an integrated circuit, right? He never sort of put those parameters on it. He just talked about computing and transistors, et cetera. So quantum is what's next, right? And on the networking side, we're going to be a terabit soon, all right? But petabit is coming. So the way AI, ML, kind of all these things that everybody is either afraid of, excited about, or as most of us, I think, are both, it's going to come from handling all this data, doing all this work, and that's going to take quantum, it's going to take petabit networking. And that kind of networking, when applied to a multi-cloud kind of world, is going to actually become the backbone of computing. And here, Eric Schmidt said this, when the network becomes as fast as the processor, which is happening, all right, the computer hollows out and spreads across the network. And I think at Sun, John Gage said it actually very succinctly, and that is the network is the computer. And this is the age that we're actually going into, where it's going to feel a lot like the utility grid or a telcos, all right? Utilities typically are peered together, across maybe regional boundaries. The same thing goes for electric grids, right? So are networks, and clouds will be peered in a similar way going forward to make this amazing worldwide computer that I think is the platform for a cloud PC utility grid, right? And so that when you plug in anywhere, you'll compute. I mean, it'll be that simple. It needs to get that simple in order to be that mainstream thing that I talked about earlier. And so the characteristics are going to be plug and compute. You're going to get fast time to value. You're going to get 5 nines of availability. It's going to be utility, so it's going to be just like water or electric power, consumption-based pricing. It'll work based upon peering across private and public clouds. It'll be a platform, so partners, I think, don't worry. You're going to always have this amazing ability to do value-add and integration work to make it deliver even more value for customers. And it'll have broad support for something that I like to call a cloud client appliance. You know, kind of a toaster, an appliance you just plug in, all kinds of form factors, but plug and compute. So, and the purpose of this is really simple. What we want is we want better work styles, right? And we want better lifestyles. And I think this kind of effort is worthy because we are touching millions and millions of lives to make their lives better, enhance lifestyles as well. And that's why I'm super excited about what IGEL is doing, all right, with the whole notion of the cloud client platform. That's going to be a key part of this plug and compute kind of architecture, where in the end, the network is the cloud PC. So, with that, it really is truly lovely to see you again. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you, and I just can't tell you how wonderful it's been to be among you and be here this week. So thank you very much.
Right here, I got to grab something for you. I don't know how many of you were at the awards ceremony last night, but we gave out these beautiful clocks that are actually records. And so, knowing that Mark is such a Moody Blues fan, we thought we'd give you something, and it's the Disrupt 23 End User Computing GOAT Award Lifetime Achievement, Mark Templeton. And of course, wouldn't be Mark if there wasn't one more thing. So with this, I want to bring Jim Erdo up. He's actually employee number 43, part of the family at Citrix, and he wants to say a few words. And hopefully everybody knows Jim. He runs the IGEL Ready. He's our SVP of Partner Alliances, Business Development.
Thanks, Chad. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Great to see everybody. This week's been really awesome, the culmination of a lot of planning. And Mark did say yes that morning at breakfast. It was a wonderful time. We didn't know what you were going to do. But what I also want to do in honor of Mark and Yvonne, I met Mark and Yvonne in 1995. I'd been at Citrix a little time. We were at a place called the Shipwreck Bar at the bottom of the, what was that called? The Yankee Clipper Hotel on Fort Lauderdale Beach. You can see the swimming pool as you're sitting in there, and there's mermaids swimming around. And we were down there talking about what's going to happen at Citrix. And now look at this. So a whole industry has popped up out of this, but I'm really excited. Yvonne, can you make your way up? Can you bring Speedy and Heidi? Here's Speedy and Heidi.
Oh, yeah. Good. Come on up. All right.
So we have some bacon treats here for Speedy and Heidi. We hope they like bacon milk bones. Yes.
They're looking for a spot on the rug, probably.
Yvonne.
All right.
Yes, come on.
All right, come on.
Yes. And what do you get the lady that has everything but a guitar glitter purse from Nashville? It goes perfectly with the ensemble. So thank you, Yvonne. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mark is a great friend. He's a great mentor. I'll just say one last thing and get off of here. I hope to emulate Mark in many ways, but the number one way is a really good friend. He always says yes. He always makes time, regardless. And it's just helped me, and it's shown me that I too can encourage others and just pass along the values that I've learned from being in this industry and working with this team. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. These for the dogs.
These pups, I'm hungry.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Mark, and thanks for the.
Whoa.
You all right? Yeah. The amazing vision. So we are going to transition into doing a live version of the attic, and hopefully some of you have watched the attic. We're thinking about.